You know what the hardest fight I ever had was? It wasn't against Sonny Liston. It wasn't against George Foreman in Africa. The hardest fight was standing still while the whole world talked about me. Newspapers called me terrible. Critics said I was crazy. Even people I loved turned their backs. But I learned something that changed everything. When you focus on God, the noise doesn't matter anymore. You want to know what happened when I stopped listening to gossip and started listening to God? Let me tell you a story. Listen, I know what you're dealing with. I see you. Maybe right now, people are talking about you. Maybe they're questioning your choices. Maybe they're saying you're crazy for following what you believe in. Maybe it's your family who doesn't understand. Maybe it's people at work who gossip behind your back. Maybe it's friends who used to support you but now they're quiet. And here's the hard part. Sometimes their voices get louder than God's voice. You start wondering if maybe they're right. Maybe you should just go along with what everybody wants. Maybe it would be easier to just fit in, stay quiet, stop standing up for what you believe. I've been there. I know that feeling when the whole world is against you and you're standing alone. But I also know something else. I know what happens when you stop listening to them and start listening to God. See, everybody thinks my greatest fights were in the ring. They talk about Liston, they talk about Foreman, they talk about Frazier, but my greatest victories happened when nobody was watching. When I was in a quiet room, on my knees, praying. When I had to choose between what the world wanted and what God wanted. That's where the real fight is. You're going to understand today why people's opinions have so much power over you and how to break that power. You're going to see exactly what happened in my life when I focused on God instead of gossip. You're going to learn how to keep your peace when everybody around you is losing theirs. And most important, you're going to discover that the same strength that carried me through can carry you through too. This isn't about religion. This is about truth. This is about freedom. This is about finding out who you really are when you stop trying to be what everybody else wants you to be. By the end of this, you're not going to need their approval anymore. You're going to have something better. You're going to have peace with God, and that's all that matters. So, let me take you back to the 28th of April, 1967. Houston, Texas. The Induction Center. I'm standing in a room with other young men, and we're waiting to be called into the Army. I'd been preparing for this moment for months, not preparing to go, preparing to stand. The night before, I barely slept. I kept asking myself, am I ready for this? Am I ready to lose everything? Because that's what they told me would happen. The government said they'd take my title. The boxing commission said they'd ban me from every state. The reporters said I'd never fight again. And some of the people I trusted most said, just go. You don't even have to fight. They'll give you special treatment. You can just do exhibitions, show up, look good, and come home. They didn't understand. It wasn't about whether I had to hold a gun. It was about what I believed in my heart. If I put on that uniform, I'd be saying my beliefs don't matter. I'd be saying God's voice in my heart doesn't matter. So there I stood. The lieutenant came down the line. One by one, he called names. The man before me stepped forward. Then he looked at me. Cassius Clay, Army. I heard my old name. And I stood there. I didn't move. The whole room went silent. You could hear people breathing. Some of the young men, especially the black ones, they had these little smiles, like they wanted to see somebody stand up for once. The lieutenant's face went red. He ordered everybody else out and left me standing there alone. You know what I felt in that moment? I felt fear draining from my body and a rush of something else taking its place. It was like my blood was changing. I felt this overwhelming sense of freedom and certainty. That moment, that quiet moment, changed everything. Not because I won something, because I chose God over everything else they could offer me. Now, you might think that's where the hard part ended, but that's where it began. They took everything. The title I worked my whole life for, gone. The right to fight anywhere in America, gone. My passport so I couldn't fight overseas, gone. My income, gone. I opened up a restaurant called Champ Burgers just to feed my family. I did a Broadway play. I traveled to colleges and gave lectures about Islam, about life, about standing up for what you believe. And every single day, people had something to say. The newspapers wrote terrible things. Muhammad Ali, draft dodger. Muhammad Ali, coward. Muhammad Ali, traitor. Even some of the people in the Nation of Islam who I thought were my brothers, they turned away from me too. I remember nights sitting in my house, wondering if I made the right choice. Not because I doubted God, but because I'm human. I had a family to feed. I had bills to pay. I had this talent God gave me, and I couldn't use it. Those were hard years. 3.5 years, my prime years. I was in my mid-20s, the best time of a fighter's life, and I couldn't fight. I watched other boxers on television and I thought, that should be me. I could beat all of them, but I couldn't get in the ring. People would stop me on the street. Some would say, "We're proud of you. Keep going." Others would say, "You're a fool. You threw it all away." And I had to live with all of that. The support and the criticism, the love and the hate. But here's what I learned in those 3.5 years. When you lose everything the world values, that's when you find out what's really valuable. I didn't have the championship belt anymore, but I had something better. I had my dignity. I had my faith. I had my soul. Every night before I went to sleep, I'd ask myself, if I don't wake up tomorrow, would I be proud of how I live today? And I could say yes, not because I was perfect, but because I was true. See, I could have had everything back. The government offered me deals. They said I wouldn't have to hold a gun. They said I could just give boxing exhibitions. They said I'd never see a battlefield. But I couldn't do it. Not because I was trying to be difficult, because if I took that deal, I would have had to denounce my religion, my faith, my beliefs. And what good is a championship belt if you lose yourself to get it? What good is money if you have to betray your soul to earn it? What good is fame if you have to lie about what you believe to keep it? My life would have been like a ship without a rudder on the open sea. Nothing could be more frightening to me than to try to live without my faith. So they took my title, my financial security, and they tried to take my freedom. But they could not take my dignity, my pride, or my faith, because those were solid, real, and constant in my life. And then something nobody expected happened. In 1970, they finally let me fight again. I hadn't been in the ring for 3.5 years. My prime years, gone. I was heavier, I was slower. And you know what everybody said? Ali's finished. He's too old now. He lost his speed. But see, they didn't understand something. Those years outside the ring, they didn't weaken me. They made me stronger. Not in my body, in my spirit. I learned how to take a punch from the world. I learned how to stand when everybody's trying to knock you down. I fought Joe Frazier. Madison Square Garden, March 1971. The fight of the century, they called it. 2 undefeated champions, $5 million, the biggest fight in history. I lost that fight, first loss of my career. 15th round, Joe caught me with a left hook and I went down. I got back up, finished the fight, but I lost the decision. And the critics said, "See? We told you he was done. He should have just gone into the army. He threw away his career for nothing." But I kept going, because when you're focused on God, one loss doesn't define you. I got back up. I fought my way back. I won fights. I lost some more, but I kept moving forward. And then, the 30th of October, 1974, Kinshasa, Zaire, Africa, the Rumble in the Jungle, me against George Foreman for the heavyweight championship of the world. George Foreman was a monster. Bigger than me, stronger than me, younger than me. He destroyed Joe Frazier in 2 rounds. He destroyed Ken Norton in 2 rounds. These were men who beat me or gave me hard fights, and George just demolished them. Everybody said I had no chance. They called it suicide. Even my own cornermen were scared for me. They thought I was going to get seriously hurt. I remember walking to the ring that night, 60,000 Africans chanting, Ali Bome, Ali Bome. Kill him, Ali. Kill him, Ali. They believed in me, even when my own people didn't. I got in that ring, and I did something nobody expected. I didn't dance. I didn't run. I went to the ropes, and I let George hit me. Round after round, I covered up, and I let him punch himself out. They called it rope-a-dope later, but that night, I was just trying to survive. George threw everything he had at me, punches that would have knocked out most men. But I stayed up. I talked to him while he was hitting me. I said, "That all you got, George? My grandmother hits harder than you. Is that all you got?" And in the 8th round, George was tired. All that punching, all that power, he'd used it all up. I came off the ropes, and I hit him with a combination. Right hand, left hand, right hand, and George Foreman went down. I became the heavyweight champion of the world again. The whole world watched. And you know what I felt? Not pride in myself, gratitude to God. Because see, if I had gone into the army, if I had listened to the gossip, if I had done what everybody wanted me to do, I might have kept the belt in 1967. But I would have lost myself. I would have lost my connection to God. And that's too high a price to pay for anybody's approval. Standing there in that ring in Africa, with 60,000 people screaming, with the championship belt around my waist again, I knew something. I knew that when you choose God over the world, God takes care of you. Maybe not in the way you expect, maybe not in the time you want, but He takes care of you. Now, let me tell you what all of this means for your life, because this isn't just my story. This is a lesson for anybody who's ever felt the pressure of other people's opinions. First thing you need to understand is why gossip has so much power. Listen, I want to get real with you about something. Gossip hurts because we're human. We want to be liked. We want to be accepted. We want people to understand us. There's nothing wrong with that. God made us to be social. We need people. I need people. I've always needed people around me. I thrive on people. So when people talk about you, when they criticize you, when they judge you, it hurts. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it doesn't hurt. But here's the problem. When other people's opinions become more important than God's opinion, you lose yourself. You start making decisions based on what they'll think instead of what you know is right. I learned this when I first joined the Nation of Islam. My parents didn't want me to do it. They were Baptist and Methodist. They both believed that Jesus was the Son of God. I don't believe that. I believe he was an important prophet like Moses, but not the Son of God. My parents loved me, but they didn't understand my choice. And it was hard. Really hard. Because I loved them. They raised me. They sacrificed for me. I wanted them to be proud of me. But I also knew what God was calling me to do. My mother, Mama Bird, she cried. She said, "Cassius, why are you doing this? You're breaking my heart." And man, that hurt. Hearing your mother say you're breaking her heart, that's one of the hardest things you can hear. But I had to make a choice. Do I live my truth, or do I live their truth? Do I follow what God showed me, or do I follow what they want me to believe? And I chose God. Not because I wanted to hurt them, because I had to be true to myself. Here's what I figured out. People can only see from where they're standing. They can't see what God showed you. They can't hear what God told you. They only know what they know. And if you let their limited knowledge control your life, you'll never fulfill your purpose. My mother couldn't see what I saw. She couldn't hear what I heard. She was standing where she was standing, and that was fine for her. But I was standing somewhere else. I had seen something different, and I had to honor that. The gossip has power because you give it power. The moment you decide that God's voice is the only voice that matters, the gossip loses its grip on you. Now, people always ask me, how do you know what God wants? How do you hear God's voice? Let me tell you what I learned. First, God speaks in the quiet, not in the noise, not in the crowd. When I was making the decision about going into the army, I didn't figure it out by listening to all the voices around me. I figured it out in prayer. On my knees, in silence. The world is loud. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got advice. Turn on the television, there's somebody telling you what to think. Open the newspaper, there's somebody telling you what to believe. Talk to your friends, they're all telling you what to do. But God whispers. You have to get quiet to hear him. I spent hours in prayer during those months before the induction. Just me and God. No cameras, no reporters, no friends giving advice. Just me, on my knees, asking God, what do you want me to do? And in that quiet, I heard him. Not with my ears, with my heart. I felt this peace, this knowing, this certainty that if I stayed true to my beliefs, everything would work out the way it was supposed to. Second, God speaks through your conscience. That feeling in your gut when something ain't right, that's God talking to you. When I stood in that induction center and heard my name called, my conscience said, if you step forward, you'll lose yourself. My conscience was louder than my fear. Your conscience is your connection to God. It's like a direct line. When you're about to do something wrong, you feel it. There's this heaviness, this discomfort. When you're about to do something right, even if it's hard, even if it's scary, there's a peace that comes with it. That peace is God saying, I'm with you. A lot of people ignore their conscience. They do what's convenient instead of what's right. They do what's easy instead of what's true, and then they wonder why they feel empty inside. It's because they're not listening to God. Third, God speaks through what lasts. Money don't last. Fame don't last. Titles don't last. But truth lasts. Love lasts. Faith lasts. When you're making a decision, ask yourself, will I be proud of this when I'm old? Will this matter when I'm dying? Will God be pleased with this? If the answer is yes, you know what to do. I'm older now. I have Parkinson's disease. My hands shake. My voice is softer. I move slower. But you know what? I'm at peace, because when I look back on my life, I can say, I stood for something. I stood for truth. I stood for my beliefs. I stood for God. The championship belts, they're in museums now. The money, some of it's gone. The fame, it's still there, but it's different now. But my faith, my dignity, my soul, they're still here. They're stronger than ever. That's what lasts. That's what matters. Now let me tell you about the freedom that comes when you stop caring what they think. I conquered the world and it didn't bring me true happiness. The only true happiness comes from honoring God and treating people right. See, when I was young, I needed everybody to know how great I was. I'm the greatest. I'm the prettiest. I can't be beat. I'm the fastest thing on 2 feet, and I float like a butterfly and sting like a bee. I needed that attention. I needed that approval. I needed to hear people say, yeah, Allie, you're right, you are the greatest. But as I got older, as my faith grew, something changed. I realized I don't have to prove myself anymore. Not to you, not to the critics, not to anybody. My life's purpose has changed with time and my spirituality has evolved over the years. Everything that I do now, I ask myself, will God be pleased with this? We may think that we have moments alone, but God is there, always watching, not to punish us, to guide us, to protect us, to love us. When you live like that, you're free. You're not controlled by their approval or their criticism. You're not a slave to their opinions. You're only accountable to God. And here's what's beautiful. When you stop trying to please everybody, you actually help more people because you're being real, you're being authentic, and people can feel that. I've met presidents and kings. I've met poor people and rich people. I've traveled all over the world. And you know what I've learned? People respect authenticity. They might not agree with you. They might not like you, but they respect you when you're real. When I refused to go into the army, a lot of people hated me. I mean, really hated me. They called me terrible names. They said I should go to prison. They said I was a coward and a traitor. But you know what? Even some of those people, years later, they came up to me and said, I didn't agree with you, but I respected you. You stood up for what you believed. You didn't back down. And that takes courage. That's the freedom I'm talking about. The freedom to be who you are. The freedom to stand for what you believe. The freedom to live your truth, even when it costs you something. Let me tell you something else. If someone asked me what in life I considered real, I would have to say that for me, the only thing that is real is the spiritual. Only God and love are real. Pain, sickness, old age, even death, they're temporary. They can't master me because they're not real to me in the ultimate sense. I have Parkinson's. My body doesn't work the way it used to. But I'm not my body, I'm my spirit. And my spirit is strong. Fame, wealth, material things, they're empty and meaningless without a developed spirituality. We give them value and importance in our lives, but we must be careful not to value them too much at the expense of what really matters in life. Honesty, integrity, kindness, friendship. These are the true treasures we should be seeking. I had the championship belt 3 different times. I had money. I had fame. People knew my name in every country on earth. I've been recognized in places where they don't even speak English. In China, in Japan, in Africa, in Europe. Everywhere I go, people know who I am. But none of that was real. None of that lasted in the way that mattered. What's real is what you do when nobody's watching. What's real is how you treat people when you don't have to. What's real is what's in your heart when you pray. The gossip, it's not real. It's just noise. It's just people talking because they don't have anything better to do. But your faith, your relationship with God, your integrity, that's real. That's what stays with you. I've given away a lot of money in my life. People say I gave away too much. They write about how some people took advantage of me, stole from me, and how I let them get away with it. Even when I knew people were cheating me, what was important was how I behaved, because I have to answer to God. I can't be responsible for other people's actions. They will have to answer to God themselves. Throughout my life, I never sought retribution against those who hurt me, because I believe in forgiveness. I have practiced forgiving just as I want to be forgiven. Only God knows what's in a person's heart, his true intentions. He sees and hears all things. Many people around me had their hands out, and I tried to help as many of them as I could. There's nothing wrong with that. I gave to people in need, even when I could have used the money myself, because God had made me rich enough. Now, as I look back, it seems that the more I gave in the name of God, the more He has given back to me. Don't value the fake stuff too much at the expense of what really matters. The gossip is fake, the criticism is fake, the approval is fake, because it all changes. Today they love you, tomorrow they hate you. Today you're the greatest, tomorrow you're finished. But God's love don't change, truth don't change, your integrity don't change. Build your life on that foundation. Now, let me tell you something important about standing alone. When they took my title and banned me from boxing, people said, Ali's alone now, nobody's with him. But I wasn't alone. God was with me. And when God is with you, you've got everything you need. See, standing up for truth is never easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. The test comes when you have to stand by yourself. When your friends aren't standing with you. When your family questions you, when the whole world is on one side and you're on the other, that's when you find out what you're made of. That's when you find out if your faith is real or if it's just something you talk about. I learned that it was tougher to stand up for my religious beliefs against the United States government and millions of people who turned against me than it would have been to go to war. The government offered me all kinds of deals. They told me I would never hold a gun. They told me I would give boxing exhibitions and that I would never come near a battlefield. Even if this had been true, I still couldn't go. They wanted to use me to lead other young American men into the war. They didn't seem to realize that to take their deal, I would have had to denounce my religion, my faith, my beliefs, but I was free, and I was determined to be true to myself and God. Standing up for what you believe, that's freedom, real freedom, not the kind of freedom where you can do whatever you want. The kind of freedom where you can be who you are without apologizing for it. When you stand for God, you're not standing alone. You're standing with every prophet who ever lived. You're standing with every person throughout history who chose truth over comfort. You're standing with God Himself, and that's more powerful than any crowd. I want to tell you about my friend Malcolm X. I met Malcolm in Detroit in 1962. He carried the message that there was greatness and humanity in the black man. He was a charismatic speaker. He could hold you spellbound for hours. Malcolm became my spiritual advisor. He started calling me his younger brother. When I was getting ready for the title fight against Sonny Liston, Malcolm was especially supportive. He talked to me about David and Goliath. But then things got complicated. Malcolm broke away from the Nation of Islam. Elijah Muhammad, who was the leader of the nation, told me I had to choose him or Malcolm. I chose Elijah. And I turned my back on Malcolm. When Malcolm came up to greet me in Ghana, I turned away from him, made our break public. That was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. One of my deepest regrets. Turning my back on Malcolm was wrong. He was my friend. He was my brother. He was right about so many things. Malcolm was killed before I got the chance to tell him I was sorry. Before I could tell him he was right. He was a visionary, ahead of us all. I learned something from that mistake. I learned that sometimes when you're trying to please one group of people, you hurt the people who really matter. Sometimes when you're trying to stay loyal to an organization, you betray a friendship. If I could go back and do it over again, I would never have turned my back on him. I might never have become a Muslim if it hadn't been for Malcolm. That's another lesson about gossip and choosing sides. Sometimes the people talking the loudest aren't the people who love you most. Sometimes the people who really have your back are the ones who challenge you, who tell you the truth, even when it's hard to hear. Malcolm told me the truth. He told me that color doesn't make a man a devil. It is the heart, soul, and mind that define a person. And he was right. But I wasn't ready to hear it. I was too focused on what Elijah Muhammad thought, what the nation thought, what my position in the organization was. I let gossip and politics get between me and a true friend, and I paid for that mistake, not with money, with regret, with the weight of knowing I failed somebody who believed in me. So when I tell you to focus on God and not gossip, I'm telling you from experience. I'm telling you because I know what happens when you make the wrong choice. I know what it feels like to lose somebody because you were more worried about what other people thought than what was right. Now let me give you some practical things you can do starting today. This isn't just philosophy, this is action. Every morning when you wake up, before you check your phone, before you read the news, before you do anything, take 5 minutes to connect with God. I'm serious, 5 minutes, that's all. Get on your knees or sit quietly, close your eyes, and ask God, what do you want from me today? What should I focus on? What should I ignore? We can never pray enough. We can never give enough. We can never share enough. We can never care about the world enough. And we can never love enough to repay God for His gifts to us. Being kind to all of God's creatures, showing respect for ourselves and others, treating all people with kindness and showing compassion for the less fortunate, the ill, and the deprived. This is what we should do. Knowing this strengthens my faith and turns my faith into spiritual awareness. When we devote all of our actions to a spiritual goal, everything that we do becomes a prayer. This morning practice. This is how you tune your ears to God's voice instead of the world's noise. You're setting your compass before the day tries to pull you in 1,000 different directions. I do this every day, even with Parkinson's. Even when it's hard for me to get down on my knees, I still pray. I still take that time to be with God, because that time is sacred. That time is real. That time is when I remember who I am and whose I am. Try it tomorrow morning. 5 minutes. Just you and God. Don't think about what you have to do that day. Don't think about the problems you have to solve. Don't think about what people are saying about you. Just be with God. Listen. Feel His presence. Let Him fill you up before the world tries to empty you out. See what happens when you do this for a week. I promise you, you'll feel different, you'll move different, you'll respond to people different. Because you started your day with God, and that changes everything. Second thing, every night before you go to bed, ask yourself this question. If I don't wake up tomorrow, would I be proud of how I live today? I did this every single night. Still do. Because it keeps you honest. It keeps you focused on what matters. Did you treat people right today? Did you stand up for what you believed? Did you let gossip control you, or did you stay focused on God? Did you compromise your values to please somebody? Did you do something that made God proud? This isn't about being perfect. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. There are certain things I have done that I am not proud of, especially when they caused pain to others. I ask God, but this daily reflection, it keeps you on track, it helps you see where you're strong and where you need to grow, and it reminds you that every day is a chance to live for God instead of living for gossip. Write it down if you need to, keep a journal, talk to God about your day, tell Him where you struggled, tell Him where you succeeded, tell Him where you need help. He's listening, He cares, He wants to hear from you. Make this a habit and watch how your life changes. You'll start making better decisions. You'll start treating people better. You'll start feeling more peace because you're living with intention. You're living with purpose. You're living with God. Third thing, here's what you do when people start talking about you, criticizing you, gossiping about you. Step 1, stop and breathe. Don't react immediately. Just breathe. Remember that their opinion is not God's opinion. This is hard. I know it's hard. When somebody says something mean about you, your first instinct is to defend yourself, to fight back, to prove them wrong. But that's what they want. They want you to react. They want you to lose your peace. They want you to get pulled into their drama. Don't give them that power. Breathe. Count to 10. Remember who you are. Remember whose you are. Step 2, ask yourself, is this criticism true? Is there something I actually need to change? See, not all criticism is bad. Sometimes people point out things we need to work on. Sometimes they're right. And if they're right, you need to listen. You need to thank them and change. But if the criticism is not true, if it's just gossip, if it's just people talking because they're jealous or bored or mean, let it go. Don't carry it. Don't argue. Don't defend yourself to people who aren't trying to understand you. Just let it go. The critics only made me work harder. Every time I opened my mouth, I could back it up. They called my poems terrible. They said they were the ravings of a madman. I told those critics that I bet my poetry would be quoted and published more than any of the poems written by poets they liked. And I was right. My poems are known all over the world. People quote them. Children memorize them. Not because I'm a great poet. Because I spoke from my heart. Because I was real. Step 3. Pray for them. I'm serious. Pray for the people who talk about you. Some people hold on to hatred, revenge, and prejudice. But there comes a time in every person's life when they have no choice but to forgive, or they will be consumed by bitterness. When you pray for them, you free yourself from carrying anger in your heart. You're not doing it for them, you're doing it for you. Because anger and bitterness, they hurt you more than they hurt anybody else. They're like poison. They'll eat you up from the inside. I've forgiven everybody who ever hurt me. The people who stole from me, the people who lied about me, the people who turned their backs on me. I forgave them all, not because what they did was okay, because I refuse to let their actions control my peace. Step 4. Refocus on your purpose. Remember why you're here. Remember what God called you to do. The gossip is a distraction. Don't let it pull you off course. I always knew why I was here. Even when I couldn't box, even when they took my title, I knew I had a purpose. To stand for truth, to inspire people, to show people that you can be true to yourself and still succeed, to show people that God is more important than fame or money or approval. That purpose kept me going. That purpose gave me strength when I wanted to give up. That purpose reminded me that the gossip didn't matter. You have a purpose too. God put you here for a reason. Don't let gossip distract you from that reason. Stay focused, keep moving forward, keep being you. These practices, they're simple, but they're powerful. Do them for 1 week and watch what happens to your peace, your confidence, your clarity. When you focus on God instead of gossip, everything shifts. Now, I want to tell you something important. You're going to face a moment, maybe you're facing it right now, where you have to choose. You're going to have to choose between what they want and what God wants, between what's easy and what's right, between the noise and the truth. I can't make that choice for you. Nobody can. Your parents can't make it. Your friends can't make it. Your boss can't make it. Only you can make it. But I can tell you this. Whatever the choice is, you've got to accept the outcome of your own decision. All the credit and all the blame will be yours. And if you choose God, if you choose to focus on Him instead of the gossip, it might cost you something. It might cost you relationships. It might cost you opportunities. It might cost you comfort, but you'll gain something they can never take away. You'll gain your soul. You'll gain your dignity. You'll gain peace. You'll gain freedom. I know where I'm going and I know the truth, and I don't have to be what you want me to be. I'm free to be who I am. And that freedom, that came from choosing God over gossip. You can have that same freedom. It's waiting for you right now, today. I would like to be remembered as a man who won the heavyweight title 3 times, who was humorous, and who treated everyone right. As a man who never looked down on those who looked up to him, and who helped as many people as he could. As a man who stood up for his beliefs no matter what. As a man who tried to unite all humankind through faith and love. And I wouldn't even mind if folks forgot how pretty I was. But more than anything, I want to be remembered as a man who chose God, who chose truth, who chose freedom. That's what I want for you too. I want you to be free. Free from the need for their approval. Free from the fear of their criticism. Free from the weight of trying to be something you're not. Here's what I want you to remember. When God is present, nothing can prevail against us. All we have to do is trust and believe. When it rains, we sometimes see a rainbow. Moisture and light cooperate to create a stairway to heaven. We witness the seasons come and go in perfect timing. We watch as summer fades into fall and fall into winter. Then we watch as the snow melts away and spring appears. Just as we trust that the seasons will change, we must trust that we can weather the storms of life. The gossip will pass. The critics will move on to someone else. The opinions will fade. But your relationship with God, that lasts forever. Build your life on that foundation and you'll never fall. I'm older now. My body is slower. My voice is softer. But my spirit is strong. My faith is strong. My peace is strong. Because I chose God over gossip a long time ago, and I never looked back. You can make that same choice, starting right now. Today. This moment. Stop listening to them. Start listening to God. Stop worrying about what they think. Start caring about what God thinks. Stop trying to please everybody. Start living your truth. The key to peace of heart and mind is approaching life not with a determination to gain wealth and fame for comfort and glory in this life, but rather with a goal of realizing spiritual development. If you keep a positive mind and an optimistic outlook on life, negativity loses its power to make you unhappy. God's love is universal. He is with us always. Let Him guide you and you will never be lost. Now, if this spoke to your heart, if this helped you today, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now. I've got more wisdom to share with you, more truth to tell, more stories to give you strength. I want to keep talking to you. I want to keep helping you find your way. If this message resonated with you, if something I said hit home, hit that like button. Let me know this mattered to you. Let me know you heard me. And here's what I really want. Leave a comment below. Tell me your story. What's one thing you're choosing God over today? What gossip are you letting go of? What truth are you standing up for? Your story matters, your struggle matters, your victory matters, and I want to hear about it. We're in this together. When you share your story, you inspire somebody else who's going through the same thing. You give them courage. You give them hope. So don't be shy. Drop a comment. Tell me what you're dealing with. Tell me what you're choosing. Tell me how you're focusing on God instead of gossip. Remember, stay focused on God. Ignore the noise. Live your truth and watch what happens. I promise you, when you make God your focus, when you make His opinion the only opinion that matters, your life will change. Not overnight, not always in the way you expect, but it will change. You'll have more peace. You'll have more strength. You'll have more joy. You'll have more freedom. Because you're not carrying the weight of their expectations anymore. You're not trying to please everybody. You're just being you, the you that God created you to be. And that's the most beautiful thing in the world. Being yourself, standing in your truth, living in your purpose, connected to God. That's what I want for you. That's what God wants for you. That's what's waiting for you when you choose Him over the gossip. God bless you. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being open. Thank you for being here. Now get out there and be free. Be yourself. Stand tall. Stand strong. And remember, when God is with you, no one can defeat you. I love you. Stay strong. Focus on God. Peace.